All right, welcome back tonight. We have a very interesting guest on, a fun guest, Jay from Beer to Dad Fishing. I think it's going to be a great show. If you have any questions or want to know anything about kayak fishing, I think this is the guy to ask. He's got a lot of good videos, information on his channel, and I'll be sure to link his channel too at the end of this and below, so you can go check it out. All of his videos. So I'm not going to leave him hanging in there. We're going to go ahead and bring him on here and get started. Well, Jay, welcome to the show tonight. How are you tonight?
I'm good, Chad. How are you, brother?
I'm doing real good. I first of all want to thank you for coming on tonight. I appreciate it. Um, Sometimes it's hard to pinpoint schedules down with everybody, especially this time of year when fishing's starting to get
Yeah,
going and everything going like that. So
no,
first of all,
absolutely, man.
yeah, I mean it's here. No, I'm in Indiana. Where are you from again?
Pennsylvania.
Okay, so here it's just been really cold lately for some reason. We just can't break it. Like last night, we had a frost advisory. I don't think it really frosted, but it's like, man, it just won't get warm.
Yeah.
That water temperature. I was in a small lake. I started doing the KBF challenge in April, and that water temperature was only like 53 and 54, and it was muddy. I thought, man, these fish are
Man,
never going to spawn this cold.
yeah. No, I was just so this weekend I was just up in New York fishing because I fish the Finger Lake area a lot,
Okay.
and it's one of my favorite places. But of course, I go this weekend, which is probably the windiest weekend in the whole
Uh,
all spring. I get out there on Saturday. It's wind gusts of 35 mile an hour,
uh,
wind of 20, like sustained winds of 15 to 20. Dude, it was a hot mess. And
yeah.
water temperatures were at 45 degrees.
Holy
So
cow.
so it's tough, man. I skunked this weekend was not a good weekend for me.
Yeah, I've only caught one for this whole tournament. I mean, I went and the first I caught one late, and it was on a sink or actually a Nico rig. First year I wanted to try Nico rigs, so I caught it on a fire crawl Cinco worm,
Mhm.
and that was the only thing I had all day because, like I said, it was just I couldn't believe how cold that water was. It was a smaller lake around here, and it was like 70 degrees that day. But I did find one spot was real shallow, and if you didn't have a kayak, you would. I mean, you could probably wade some of the area I was in where I found
Yeah.
that 54-degree temp. So, and the rest of it was 53. And then the last time I went, thinking it might improve, but and like I said, the wind it got so bad. I had to get out of the kayak because all I did was I don't have any kind of spotlight or motor. I just got a pedal kayak, so I just
Mhm.
said I got to park it. I mean, I got tired of fighting the wind because I mean, I get going next thing I'm just drifting on down just as
Oh
fast as I
yeah.
can. I mean, it was like white cap a little bit. So I'm out of here. I'm out.
Yeah.
So I mean,
No,
I
and
banked.
I have the spot lock, so I've never had
Oh,
that issue, but this weekend, I never got motion sickness on my kayak until this weekend. That's how
oh
bad the
wow.
wakes were, man. Like it was pretty gnarly. Like I couldn't. I was just distracted the whole time trying to fight the waves.
Yeah, that just kind of ruins your fishing, because that's
Yeah.
all I'm doing is trying to keep up my position. I'm just drifting. I said, well, I'll just cut it out, and I banked fish a little while, but like I said, it was just so windy right there for some reason. So hopefully this weather will break. It's just kind of driving me crazy. I'm ready for some consistently seven
Oh, for sure.
degrees. No rain. We've had a lot of rain, so everything's still really muddy, and just it's. I just can't believe how muddy the water. The wind's one thing, but I can't believe how muddy that water was.
Mhm.
Both days, one day had a couple of days of no rain, but it was still pretty murky. So
Yeah. Yeah, we had rain here too over the last couple weeks. It's been some record-setting rain too, so, I mean, it was chocolate
oh
milk when I was out there. What's gonna
yeah,
happen is we're gonna have a week of, like, 70-degree weather. That water temp's gonna get up to, like, 59, 60 like this, so,
yeah,
like, things have just changed, like, super fast.
yeah. Anymore, it does. The seasons just kind of just they just blend anymore. You go to bed like I always say. There is no fall anymore. You go to bed at night at 75. You wake up it's 35. It's like okay,
Mhm.
where'd the fall go? We're right into winter already. But before we get into it, I just want can you give me a little background about yourself, like how you got into this? A little bit
Sure.
background about where you came from.
Absolutely, man. So as far as how I got into fishing, I think it kinda starts with like most guys, I started fishing with my dad when I was young. We did some trout fishing, and
Okay.
my dad was never any good at it. Like when we fished for trout, we used worms or we used corn,
Mm.
and that was it. You just tossed it out there and you waited. So
Right.
it was, I mean, it taught me patience at a young age, but we had some bonding time and we enjoyed it. But we did that for a couple years, and once I became a teenager, we didn't fish at all. I got back into it with the pandemic. So 2020, I started making some friends that fish. So they took me out, and we fished all of 2020, and that's really where I got my start into lake fishing. Because even prior to that, with my dad, we always just fished either canals or we fished just wherever the trout was, you know. So it was only for a
Right.
couple weeks because out here the trout don't they die out a couple maybe like a month or so after they're stocked. Either they're fished
Hmm.
out or they die out because everything's pretty shallow up here.
Okay.
So I started in 2020 for the first time fishing lakes. So I remember catching my first perch. I was like, man, that's so cool. Then I caught my first crappie. I was like, that's so cool. Like it was just all
Right.
different. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
Um, yeah. So I got into it really in 2020. 2021 is when I jumped in and got my kayak. So I got an Old Town Sportsman PDL 120.
Okay.
Absolutely love that kayak. Like everybody else, I did, probably like 100 hours worth of research just to
Oh.
find
Oh.
that kayak.
Didn't it drive you nuts after a
Oh
while?
my gosh, dude. Like, I had a list of kayaks. I had to write them down because, I'm brand new to this world. I didn't even know pedal drive kayaks were a thing until somebody opened their mouth, and then I was like, oh crap.
Right.
Yeah. So then you jump into down
Mhm.
the rabbit hole. But
Oh
I
yeah.
watched so many videos. Finally settled on the Old Town. Really happy I did.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good one.
yeah, and that's how I got started with fishing. Most recently, right? So kayak fishing, I found that connection with it. Really enjoyed it. And shortly, I mean, that same year, 2021, I got a GoPro camera. My wife gave it to me solely. I asked her for it for Father's Day, and she gave it to me. I told her, I just want to show you the fish I catch when I'm out there. So
Right.
she gave it to me the first weekend that I had it. I caught my first muskie. So I was like, that's
Oh,
cool. I'll
nice.
put that up on YouTube.
Right.
And yeah, so that's how I started. And then I kind of started posting videos on YouTube without any really forethought, except like, I'm gonna edit this video, put it on YouTube, and that's the end of it. Then I learned about the strategy of YouTube, and I started diving into the science, if you will, behind it.
Right.
And that's when
There's a lot to that too.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh, yeah, there's so much to succeeding on any social media. I mean, and YouTube's no
Yeah.
different. So if you want to succeed at it, you got to do it in a certain way. And once I fell into that, I just started digging deeper and deeper and deeper. And I enjoy it. So I've going on 3 years now that I've been posting consistently on YouTube,
Yeah.
and it's been fun, and it's cool because as I learned, I was making videos. So I learned how to make my first kayak crate, and I was like, I'm gonna make a video about this. And
Yeah.
not even a
Right.
week later, I was making a video about kayak crates. So it's not like I had to sit on all this knowledge for a couple years. I was learning and then posting.
Yeah, that's what's great about. I mean, great about the platform too is like,
Mhm.
yeah, you could just share that with everybody and people learn from it. Yeah, because that's the way I learned a lot of stuff. I mean, yeah, you almost think about the times of how did we exist before Google and YouTube? It's like, man, because now every answer in the world practically is at your fingertips.
Absolutely.
So yeah, you got a good kayak. Like so, when I've got a native, it's a Slayer Propel 10. I was
Okay.
looking at between it and the Old Town. But I went with the native. I think I'm not sure the reasoning why. I think I just went with. I think at the time I liked the color. I'm a big camo guy, so I like that the
Okay.
camouflage color. But they're pretty comparable. I had them like I said, it was down to those two. I had it now. I had a feel free lure version too, but it was just a paddle kayak. And then,
Okay.
like I said, I really wasn't sure about pedals. Then I started looking in. I thought, wait a minute. I think I want. So I sold it and took some of that money and I bought the pedal and never looked back because it makes it so much easier now. That was
Mhm.
long before motors were starting to get, I think, famous, or they weren't as popular as they are now at that time when I got into the pedal. So I'm happy with it right now. So maybe someday I'll get to the motor, but then that's a whole other expense. I got to go to the BMV and get registered and all that stuff. So at least that's how you do it here. I'm sure you do it there as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and then
yeah,
once you get that, then you gotta get the battery, you gotta wire it up.
right,
So, I mean, I have the autopilot,
okay,
and even I kinda fell into it because I found a really good deal locally used, for $3,000, included 2 fish finders, a lithium like a
oh wow,
100 amp hour lithium battery, and, like, also even some crates and things like that. So, I kinda fell into a good deal before I was even
yeah.
really looking for one.
That's the 12 foot, isn't it?
That's the 13 and a half foot.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm
So yeah,
kidding.
you've got an excellent deal because, like so we'll get into it. Like I said, when you're beginning kayak, you've got to set your budget to. I think you've talked about like so I'm really enjoying a lot of your videos on that because if you're new, that's the thing to go because it's all right there laid out. There's a lot of information there, but it's beginning and easy to understand.
Mhm.
You're not going to 50 different sources because if you do that, you're going to. But I mean, I'm guilty, and that was one thing I think you stressed in your video information overload.
Mhm.
There's so much out there. Like you said, I think people get bogged down. Okay, I got this, got that, got that. I don't think you do. I think you need to, you grow into it. I think a little bit because you may not even like it. I think
Exactly.
that's a lot happened. Like you said, when the pandemic came out, people were buying them and then thought, well, I really wasn't really my thing. So now they're selling them. So I think you want to kind of. That's why I didn't I don't want to invest in like 4 or 5 grand on a kayak. Like, what if I don't like this? 2 grand was my max. That's I got to stop there. That's about what I pay for it then. Now I think it's like probably 2,300. That's just that's without any kind of accessories. So yeah, that's why I looked at it when I was first getting in. You got to go budget. I mean, there's a lot of questions I think you got asking yourself when you like. I did a quick video, not near as in depth as yours, but I really like how you listed the necessities because people don't realize you may spend 2 grand on a kayak, but if you want to get into the electronics, you got to get the
Mhm.
PFDs, you got everything else. You're talking another $1,500 probably.
Yeah, easily.
At least, yeah. And that's I the only electronics I have. You're probably gonna laugh at me. I just got a Piranha Max 4Di. That's all I got. I'm very simple with a
No.
little lithium battery that I in a waterproof box that I made myself, and it works great for me because I just I'm not really I just do it for fun. I enjoy it, so
No.
that's about as high tech as I get.
Well, I've heard a
So
lot of great things about the Piranha. It's very
yeah,
similar to the Striker 4.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a nice little unit. I got it at a good price, but it's really clear. It worked great, And main thing, like I said, I wanted to, get the water temp, the depth, and see some structure and stuff, And then that's what I
Mhm.
got it for. But I just can't afford to, people getting all the forward facing and all that stuff. So that's a little much. Um, so if you were, I know you explained it in your video. So what would be the first piece of advice that you would probably give somebody? Say, hey, I want to, invest in this kayak fishing.
Yeah. So, first piece of advice, just like you said, is you have to figure out your
Mm.
budget. So, because it's so easy to jump down the rabbit hole and if you looked at kayak fishing 5 years ago, your options were much more limited to what they
Mm.
are now. I mean, now you have tons of not just domestic kayak companies, but there's companies that are coming from overseas. People are private labeling kayaks from Alibaba,
No.
and if you don't know
Right.
initially, it's very easy for that stuff to slide under the radar. And not that they're bad, but there's brands like Hoodoo that come in. Brooklyn Kayak Company is another one, and they tend to appeal for newcomers because you will see a pedal kayak for $1,200 or $1,300.
Right.
Whereas if you're looking at the comparable Native or Old Town,
Yeah.
or the Bonafide P127, like you're 3 grand in easily just for the kayak. So find out the budget and then find out what's important to you. If you're fishing, small waters, then maybe you don't need. You're not bringing a ton of stuff with you, a ton of storage. If you're fishing big waters, then you know that you need to get like a bigger kayak. You're going to need something with
Yeah.
more stability, and you're taking generally on big water, you're taking more gear. So once you figure out what you're using this for, because a lot of people, I also have a Facebook group called Kayak Fishing Dads, and one of
Okay.
the biggest questions that we got, there's 20,000 members in there. Biggest question that still to this
Wow.
day is, what's the best kayak for me? I'm getting in, I'm learning what's the best kayak,
Right.
but that's where all the information stops. And everybody that's been in there for a little bit, they'll say, "Well, we got to know, where are you fishing? Who are you fishing with? Are you fishing saltwater? Are you fishing small creeks?" Because all that information is gonna vary on the kayak. Because if kayak that's good for me doesn't mean it's good for Chad. Doesn't mean it's good for Bob down the street.
Right.
So it
Good
varies.
point.
Yeah, and I like what you said about spending 4 or 5 grand on a kayak, because if you're just starting out and you think, man, I have to get the best of the best, and initially most people think the Hobie PA 14, because that's the most expensive kayak you can get at
Right.
almost $6,000. Um, but you end up spending all this money towards the kayak, and you find out either you don't like kayak fishing or this kayak's big. I mean, it's 14 foot. It's 120 pounds with nothing
Yeah.
on it. One thing breaks on that kayak, and the chair is $900 if you're going to replace that chair.
Oh wow.
It is, yeah,
Had
it's
no
not
idea.
cheap. It's not
No.
cheap, man.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I guess just getting around those type of the mindset of what are you using it for, how much you want to spend, and what's really important for you.
Yeah, I got you there because, like, I was talking with who was I speaking with? But I was talking about we were talking about the rivers and stuff. Now this is going to sound silly, but as much as I spend on that native, it's not going to see a river around here. I'm not putting it in a river here because there's too much rocks. It's going to tear it up. I know, I mean, I just worry. To me, I spend too much money. It's like if I buy a nice 4-wheel drive truck. I know that sounds crazy. I'm not going off roading. It's just too
Mhm.
nice. It's too expensive. So my kayak will not see a river because of the rock. At least around here, because I know the rivers around here are very rocky. A lot of logs, and I'm afraid it's going to get tore up. And I just
Mhm.
spent too much money. It's the only one I got. So I don't want to tear the rudder up unless I take it off. I mean, of course, you wouldn't have the pedal drive in a shallow river, but I just not going to risk it. But like that's a good point. Like you said, you want to fit that kayak to where you're going to be fishing it mostly.
Mhm.
I'm a smaller guy. I fish mostly smaller lakes and things like that. So a 10 foot to me was great because I just got a little bed extender that I added on my. I got a little Explorer Sport Track. It's got a very short bed on it. So that bed extender works great. I can just slide that in and out of that real easy. So yeah, it worked out great for me. So now, do you have a trailer with yours? I assume on that size, or do
I
you?
do. So I have one now. When I
Okay.
started out initially with my 12-foot Old Town, I was just throwing it in my truck bed. I had the
Right.
I had the extender as well. It worked great. Eventually, I stopped using the extender, and it was probably more out of just being lazy. But I realized I didn't really need it. But once I got the autopilot, which is 13 and a half feet, I needed to use it because and that got tiring real quick trying to move a 13 and a half foot, 120-pound kayak off of truck bed, on the truck bed, down a ramp, on a cart. Man, those things, they're heavy. So
Yeah.
that's another thing to think about when you're getting a kayak is your physical capabilities, man, because
Right.
lugging these things around, they're awkward, they're long, they're heavy to push around. So if you're gonna cart it, which is I recommend it, you don't want to drag your kayak, but
No.
even carting it, lifting it up and down, you got to be physically capable to do that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Like I said, like if there's no boat ramp access, yeah, the cart's a godsend because yeah, you don't want to drag. Like I said, not only risking it, but it darn gets heavy. It's hard to
Hmm.
pull that thing over, and I just can't. I didn't want to think about just hearing that thing because that's another downside to the native is the rudders. It's on the bottom and it's you can't flip it up. So if you dart dragging it, it's taking a lot of the heat. Now I've
Hmm.
got that extra. I got I bought the aftermarket Boondocks, which is rudder, which is a little longer, which is nicer for steering and stuff. But if you dragging that thing, that's just eventually that's gonna take little chips and bites
Yeah.
out of it. So, and I like to tell y'all on the video you talked about necessities. The one other thing that I did a quick video, like I said, it wasn't nowhere near as in depth as yours, but I recommend it too. Is you have a toolkit that has that every bolt and nut on that kayak, you'll have a tool for it because you may need to do some repairs out on the water. So I always told people to make sure you have an Allen wrenches, pliers,
Hmm.
adjustable wrenches, whatever. Because the first time the first time I used my kayak, I didn't have the drive um, tightened all the way, and it come loose. Therefore, it's totally useless. So I had lucky it was a smaller lake. It wasn't out far, so I had to pull it up and paddle my way back in. But because I didn't have the tool with me, and I go learn the hard way.
Yeah.
Have those tools with it because then it wouldn't have been a big deal. I could just tighten it up and I'd have been on my way. But I didn't have it, so
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah, having a repair kit like that is I
yeah,
mean, it's gonna come in use at some point. And
yep,
I don't want to take credit for it because I forgot where I heard someone said have a repair kit. It might have been just online on one of the groups. I needed it the first day I was out too. And it was for
yeah,
something silly. The chair needed to be tightened up or something like that. But sure enough, I pulled out my screwdriver and there I was tightening it at the ramp and I was good to go. But all those little tools, the Allen wrenches, like a little pair of pliers, just if you have to tighten something down, zip ties, duct tape goes a
mm,
long way. I even
yes,
have like dielectric grease just in case. I mean, that's not really like an emergency situation, but there's plenty of times where I'm putting my connectors together. I'm like, man, this is dry. So I just squirt it on there. and I'm good to go, man. So it's just a little box, like a little 3600 tackle box that I keep everything in.
Okay, that's yeah, because you just you want to prepare for the I guess the unexpected because you don't know what can happen. And like you said, tether it down. I can't straight. I even got my no, the catch board tethered down because my
Yeah.
phone's always tethered to my waist. My pliers are tethered to my waist because like you said, and I didn't honestly I didn't even know they made such thing. But you had the rod float in that video.
Hmm.
You know, I thought, man, if I'd have had that because I don't know if you remember the rod. That's an old fishing rod, but it was one of my favorite rods of all time. But Shimano made it called the Bull Whip. It
Okay.
was an old pistol grip type of a handle. That's how old it is, But it was a bait casting rod. I love that thing. Plop in the water it goes, and I tried to grab it, and I couldn't get it, and I just had to see, and you almost want to cry
Mhm.
because that
Yeah.
thing is old, and you cannot find them ever again. I just love that rod, so I go, man, if I had only had that, because I mean, I have them tethered in the crate that I got, for when
Hmm.
I'm going to and fro. But when they're in my hands, I'm fishing with it. I don't have it tethered to me because I don't know how good that would be. I think it might affect me. But if you had that on, now when you use that, does it affect the casting on that rod at all? Does it?
Sometimes you have to adjust it. I mean, the rod floats don't look great, and that's a lot of
No,
people will not use it because they don't look great, and that's
right?
just it is what it is. But, uh, but it's always on there, so it's not like a tether that you're taking it off and on, you're not gonna attach a rod to you with a tether.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
exactly.
does. It can affect the castability. There's times that sometimes the line will get caught in the Velcro or something. Not generally mess up a cast, but you might have to just make a quick adjustment and either spin the foam or just pull the line out of the Velcro,
Okay,
and
yeah,
that's
that
it.
makes
Yeah. So
sense.
so it's not ruining an entire cast, but it does get annoying. Sometimes it'll get caught and you just hear it kind of whip like, "Zzz," and it's because it's the line's running on it. Uh,
Yeah,
but again, even though they don't look great, they're worth it. I have a
yeah.
good buddy out in Lake St. Clair. He heard me
Mm,
talking about these rod floats for like a good year, and he used to say, "Man, I need to get them, but they're ugly. I need to get them, but they're ugly." He flipped his kayak, lost all six of his rods, man. And
oh,
sure enough,
uh,
he has them on now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, sometimes I mean, ugly helps. I mean, if it's going to save yourself the losing a rod or something, that's big. So I mean, it's depressing. But like I said, I think that's another thing you want to kind of budget for too is like a casualty a casualty tax or whatever you want to say because
Mm,
that's obviously the most that I've lost. I and then I don't know what happened. I did have a pair of pliers. They must have fell in. I couldn't find those forever. So this year I had to buy a new pair of the needle nose. But I just because
yeah,
those are a godsend. You got to have those when you're fishing. But I don't know. I don't remember them going in the water, but they must have because I couldn't
yeah.
find them anywhere. I looked all in my crate and everything else because I still got my because like I said my original kayak was the feel free and I still use they got a soft crate. It's not a hard crate.
Oh
It's
yeah.
soft. It's
Mhm.
camouflage. It matched the kayak. It don't match my native, but it still works. I thought no sense of getting a new one, but it works. I think it works great. It fits back there just fine. So I
Yeah.
enjoy that.
Yeah, man.
So
And so you mentioned casualty. I just wanted to mention real quick, like if you tip your kayak, or whatever, you flip out of it, whatever it is, that's a bad day.
hmm
Losing everything, that just kind of compounds on that, right? So
right.
one thing I changed last year was I got an insurance policy on my gear and on my
Mm,
kayak. So in the occasion that Lord forbid, because I don't tether everything down. Like my crate right now that I have with all my gear and everything in it,
hmm
is not tied down. So if I
Okay.
were if I were to take a spill, I'm losing everything that's in there. Probably gonna lose my GoPro and whatever else. But I did get an insurance policy on the kayak, on the trailer, and on my gear as well. So that way, whatever it is, your fish
Okay.
finder takes a spill too. There's a small deductible, but I think I pay maybe $300 a year, and that covers both of my kayaks, trailer, and gear.
Okay. I was
Um,
gonna say about now is that through like your car insurance or your home
so
insurance
yeah,
or
so it's a boat policy technically
okay.
from Progressive.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah,
got
so
progressive car insurance, so that might be. I never thought about that.
yeah, and I
That's
didn't I didn't until I got the autopilot, and then once I
right.
started doing the math on the gear I have on it, because it's
Yeah.
one thing for just the kayak, but I have my fish finder. This year I did add live scope on there. That's another $1,500 just on that. I don't want to be left out in the cold and make a
No.
bad day worse.
Exactly. Yeah, that would be yeah. That'd be I should have just stayed home day for sure. Yeah, I didn't know anything. I didn't think about that. I mean, I know there's boat insurance, but I didn't think about that because you don't hear about that.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know, you know,
unfortunately, it's an easy thing to steal. I mean,
y- yeah.
Chad Hoover just posted a couple weeks ago that someone went into their, kayak bass fishing compound and stole one of their it might have been a native. They just stole it out
Mm,
the backyard,
wow.
so
I didn't see that. Yeah, that's terrible. Yeah, that's terrible. Yeah, and that's not good. So have you been any tournaments then, you said this year?
not this year. I think I'm gonna
Okay.
probably hold off on doing in-person tournaments, but I'm doing online tournaments. So the Knucklehead Bass Fishing Series
Right.
is the online tournament that I'm working on this year. So I don't have to compete for it because I'm one of the team captains.
Okay.
Um, but it's put on by KBF, and there's 12 different teams that you could join, and each team is captained by a YouTuber or a content creator. And you join their teams for 4 months. So it's May, June, July, and August. It's $25 to enter for any of those given months, and then you go against anybody else online for that month. So if say 25 people sign up for Team Bearded Dad for May,
Okay.
and you're one of those 25 people, you just have to beat those other 24 people. And if you win first place, you also get to fish with me in Alabama in October for the actual championship. So that's an in-person tournament, and there's $10,000 worth of prizes for the first three teams that
Okay.
place. So that's the only one I'm really doing this year.
Okay.
But after doing that tournament last year, I really enjoyed the fact that it's beginner friendly. And
Yeah.
of the
That's
four guys that were on my team, two guys did not have a kayak until the week before showing up for that tournament,
mm,
because you can do it from a boat, you can do it from the bank, or you can do it from a kayak for the
yeah.
online portion.
Okay, yeah, that's something there. That one thing I do like about KBF that Chad does, he makes it so, like you said, accessible to about anybody. There's really almost no excuse.
Yeah.
You know, just and if you want to get, if you want, because the state challenges, yeah, it's similar, but it's only per state, and it goes once a month. But like you said, it makes it everybody you can still get that tournament feeling, but you're not having maybe traveling hundreds of miles away to
Mhm.
enter something.
Yeah,
So
and it's
I would,
the pressure too. You don't have to feel that same pressure. I
yeah.
was very intimidated for and I probably shouldn't have been, but I didn't know what to expect for my first in-person tournament, which was a small local chapter that, here in Eastern Pennsylvania. But showing up, never having fished a tournament before, you get nervous. I forgot
Hmm.
my Sharpie. Thankfully, someone was there to give me a Sharpie to write my identifier on.
Right.
And everybody was extra pleasant. Like most kayak anglers, just they're good all around guys and girls. You know,
I think
uh,
so too.
yeah, but if you don't want that extra pressure and you just want to kind of dip your toes in, an online tournament like that is perfect.
Yeah, I think I'd be. I would done that like you said in person. Either like I think to me, like I'm like you in a way. I think I'd feel a little like nervous. Like, man, are they gonna laugh at how bare bones equipment I am? Like look at this guy.
Yeah.
He got nothing. Look at that little 4-inch fish finder or whatever. But I think that's what I worry about too. But what was it that Drew Gregory won that big Bassmaster series? He wasn't even using anything. And
Yeah.
he went out there and beat the guys that are using that live scope and stuff. I mean, I'm nowhere near the fisherman he is. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just kind of using that as an example that, hey, you don't need, the top of the line right away. I think at least, like you said, at least get your foot in the water, so to speak, and do it.
Hmm.
That's what I like about kite fishing because, I mean, it can get expensive, but it's not near the expensive buying a boat and then you got to buy a trailer. Like I said, and you got upkeep with the gas and the oil and
Yeah.
all that other stuff that you just don't have. Now, do you have a boat at all or thing? Or just
I don't.
strictly
I'm
okay?
all kayaks.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, now, I remember I had a little. My brother-in-law and I years ago went into had a little John boat, had us like a little trolling motor for it. That's about the closest to a boat I got. And it was
Yeah.
so old and it didn't have a hole number. So the B&V said, "I'll just put I think it was a 7 or 8 digit number together and just put it on there, slap on a metal, and then bring it
Oh,
in."
okay.
And they titled it for us because here in Indiana you have to have it. Um, if you got any kind of motor on it, whereas the electric or not, even like a trolling motor, it's got to be registered. And
Yeah.
they're like, well, how many horsepower it's got? And I go, don't really know. Trolling motors are measuring pounds of thrust, no horsepower. So maybe
Yeah.
one, maybe a half a pound horsepower. I don't really know. Half horsepower. I don't even know how much a trolling motor would have, because it wasn't the biggest trolling motor. So
Mhm.
I just thought it was kind of funny how she was asking those questions. I said, well, they go by pounds of thrust. And she said, well, I'll just put 1 horsepower. I go, yeah. I said, that'll work with me. That's fine with me. So
Yeah, yeah.
that, so yeah. So the challenge starts next month, right?
Yeah.
The knucklehead. Okay.
Yeah, so
Now,
it
do you
starts
remember?
it
All
starts May.
right. There's 12 teams, right? You just
Yeah.
pick a team and then you can
Yeah, so
go.
you pick some guys you could sign up for up to 2 teams
Okay.
and, per month. So say you were to join my team and Chad Hoover's team. Well, then if you win first place in both of them, then you get to pick whose team do you wanna be on, or you might win first place in one and not the other because each team will probably have someone different competitors. But,
Okay.
Chad Hoover has a team, Fluke Master, Darren from Wendell Fishing, John from Creek Fishing Adventures,
Okay.
John Sweets. There's a lot of captains on there, and I think they're still choosing the final 4, captains on there. So, but I think the guy from, John Cruz from Missile Baits, he'll
Okay.
he'll be on
Oh, so
there,
you have
yeah.
a team too?
Yeah, and he had one last
Okay.
year as well for the knucklehead, but he had to bow out at the last minute. He had something going on.
Mm,
Alex Rudd has a team as well.
heard of
So
him. Yeah. Heard
yeah,
of
so
that
there's,
name.
there's a lot of guys, and it was just fun. Like last year when I went down there, got to meet all the guys that I've been watching on YouTube for years.
Yeah. That.
It's a cool experience to do that. It's really weird for people to be like, "Oh, hey, you're Jay," and I don't know who they are, but they watch my channel. So
Yeah. Right.
but it was cool. Like everybody is just so down to earth at these things.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed too. Like I said, I haven't met a lot of people in person, but the ones that I've met, talked with, via social media, everybody does seem to be pretty and helpful. They're willing to help or say, yeah, here. They're not. Oh, I'm not going to tell you, this and that, but they're all willing to give up the information, and help you out and tell you, hey, I don't know that answer, but I'll tell you where you can go or whatever and gives you the answer. So it's always been, yeah, that's always refreshing. I haven't personally come across anybody that's been really, negative because there's just so much negative now. And I hate that. But, like you said, this world here, people in general seem to be pretty friendly and straightforward with you, and
Yeah,
that's the way to be. So going back to the kayak fishing there, we kind of covered the basics as far as like what kayak you got and the accessories. I noticed you had some carts on there. You had two different kinds. It looked very similar. The one was
yeah,
had orange wheels, and the other
yeah.
one was like an
So there's
express.
yeah, so there's the Wilderness Systems
Well done. Okay.
kayak cart. So that's the one I started out with, and I think I would still consider it one of the best ones on the market, but it's also pricey. It's $240 right now.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So it's heavy duty. It's rated for up to 450 pounds. It's a great kayak. Really wide wheels, even for the non inflatable versions. They're really
Hmm.
wide, so it won't get stuck on a small piece of gravel or anything like that. But now, I think they kind of established themselves in the market because they were one of the first carts that were able to break down and made adjustable for
Okay.
different kayaks. But now there's a lot of competitors in that space, and one of them is the orange one you were talking about, the Beaver kayak cart, and that's made overseas. You can find it on Amazon. So it's Vevor, Vevor.
Okay.
And they make, I mean, this is one of those companies that just makes everything. They make like ice cream machines, they make toasters, they make
Oh, wow.
welders,
Okay.
yeah, all types of stuff. Somehow they decided they wanted to make a kayak cart,
Right.
and they sent me one so I can test it out. I tested it out on my Old Town Sportsman PDL, and it's a great cart, man. It's for the price. I think at the time was about $100, and I've seen them
Mm.
drop it as low as $75. The wheels are just as wide. The bars are adjustable, so you can fit it on any type of kayak. So the bars that come in, if you have a more narrow hull or if you have something a little wider, they come out. You can also it has a kickstand on it, which the Wilderness Systems does not include a kickstand. You have to pay another 40
Okay.
bucks to get it. So they didn't just like copy it; they made it a little bit better, I think, in my opinion. Uh, and for the price. I didn't try it for the weight capacity at 450 pounds, but it claims to have the same weight capacity as the original.
Okay. Now, did
Yeah,
you said does it fold down? Does it
it does.
does it
So
get?
it tears down, so you're able to. It has these little knobs, and you just slide it off the main channel. So then you can put it on the back of your kayak or in your hatch.
Does it come with the straps too to go around the?
It does. Yep, it comes with the
Okay.
straps. So funny thing, even on my wilderness systems one, I've never used the straps because I found like the bars that have the foam on it have enough friction most of the time that I never had to use the straps. But
Okay.
it's included in there, and again, for if you
Yeah,
find it on
that's
sale, $75. It's a hard.
even for $100. That don't sound too bad, but 75, yeah, it's kind of a no brainer. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, well, you
'cause-
said in the beginning here when people buy a kayak, like, you kind of overlook all the other accessories that come with it, and the
right.
cart was one of the first things I think I had my cart before I had my kayak, because I knew the
Oh
kayak
wow.
I get, and I knew I needed a cart, and sure enough, man, so that's once you add it all together, it can get really pricey really quick, so it's good to
Yeah.
have an option that's not $250.
Exactly. I think yeah, exactly. And you got like I said, you make sure you got your paddles. Whether you're going to need those.
Mhm.
People. Because I definitely that was one of the first things I bought. Obviously, like I said, the anchor. And I'm using just a. It's a. I think it's a 5 pound downrigger weight, shaped like a fish. And
Mhm.
that's what I use for an anchor. And I got it attached to a little float with one of those. I've seen now again. It was like online where a guy made a reel out of one of those scuba diving reels. He
Yeah,
took
yeah.
that he took that line off which would probably hold this thing, but it just seemed so thin to me. So I took all of it off and I put some almost like it wasn't paracord, but something similar. It had like a way over a pound, like a 200 or 300 pound strength on, which is way more than I would need. But I guess overkilled on that, and
Yeah.
and it works great, And I got it attached to a. I can't remember he showed me this little trick, but I don't even know if he even makes videos anymore. But I just I tie it to the very back of the boat, and then the other part of it is I got this little thing that twists that goes in my track, and I twist it, it locks it in, and if I
Okay.
would have to do a quick release, like I'm getting okay, there's some waves coming, I got to turn around, I just got to turn this thing, and it releases that line, and then of course the anchor will slide off that line and go into the water, and it floats because I got that float on it, and then I can hurry up
Okay.
and face till the danger is gone or whatever. That I can go back and grab my anchor back, and that was a good little trick. And that little ring thing was only about like it was just a few bucks and goes right in your
Mhm.
track. And I used some of that paracord thing that I had left over from that making that reel, and that works like a charm,
Yeah.
because that's one thing, especially with the 10 foot. I noticed if I get on the bigger water, it's like you don't want to be on the side when those big waves come. That's not
Yeah.
good. You're like, oh boy,
Yeah, it
because
rocks you, man.
yeah, it does. I mean, it's a stable. I can stand up in it and fish. The natives are great kayak hikers, but it just, when you're out there in that 10 foot, it's so light. It does a little bit of rocking. It gets you a little bit nervous. So
Yeah.
that's one, but that's, I mean, actually, I use simplicity. Like I said, I learned a lot of things. Now, do you have a lot of camera mounts that you have in your boat when you're out there? How many cameras you use when you
So,
film?
yeah, so I only use one camera.
Okay.
I have it
Mm.
mounted. I have it on a Yak Attack, Panfish Pro, so it's called. So it's the one with the elbow. It's a little bit adjustable, so you're
Okay. I
able
think I got
to angle it.
the portrait, panfish portrait, or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
Is that what it is? Yeah,
yeah.
that's the one I got I got that for the front that faces me.
Okay, you have
I,
like the shorter one, right? Or
well,
is
I
or
don't
you
got
have
the I don't got the real short one, but
okay,
there's like a medium. There's like the real short one. They don't have the swivel base on it. You're talking about,
yeah,
but then there's one that's a little bit bigger. But then yeah, you got the one that's like probably three or four. I don't have that one. It's the one that's in
yeah.
between. I think it's the
Okay,
Portrait
that's the one I
Pro.
have one too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I only have the one camera because primarily I shoot when I'm out, but my content is not necessarily fishing videos.
Okay.
I do make it, and I'll do a couple a year generally, and it's fun. I enjoy it, but most of my content is either done in my office here, my garage, or in my dining room where I'm talking about the newest mod that I'm working on, or if I'll do I do enjoy doing the kayak countdown videos where I'll go over like the top 5 most affordable pedal kayaks or the
Mm.
top 10 kayaks under $1,000 because those were helpful for me when I was
Hmm.
doing my
Oh
initial
yeah.
review and actually that's how I started doing the 7 kayaks for big guys, and that's one of my first video that went viral for me. It was quickly went over 100,000 views over a couple months
Wow.
because lo and behold, there's a bunch of big dudes like me looking for for kayaks.
And I see, I'm a small guy, but I see that a lot, like you say, like, like some of these kayak forum Facebook groups I'm a member of, you'll see that a lot. Hey, I'm kind of a big guy. Yeah, I'm 250, 260 pounds or whatever. And what do you recommend? I see that question probably a lot,
Yeah,
on those things. That's great. Cause
yeah,
yeah, I mean, like I said, that's, when I was looking at my kayak, I'm like you, I'm going to, I only get, not only do I go to the website and look at it, I go see where I get the best price or whatever I can do like that. And then I go online and then I start looking at reviews on YouTube and the risk review and that review. Like I said, anytime I'm going to put that kind of money in something, whether it be a new TV, whatever, I'm spending hours online looking and doing
yeah.
reviews. It's just the way I am. And like I said earlier, it kind of gets to the point after a while, you're like, okay, I'm done. I'm so burnt out now. Just buy the darn thing.
Mhm.
But I don't want any buyer's remorse, I guess. I just so it's that's how I look at it. While we're talking about kayaks, I just seen a brand last week, and I'm glad I remembered because I was going to ask you about it. If you've heard of them, you ever heard of Hammerhead kayaks?
I have heard of them, and I've had a lot of
They look.
people ask me if I can
They
get my hands on
Yeah. To me, when I looked at the features, they've got one, again, it's a small one because I like the small one. It was a 10-foot, I think it was called the Baby Whale. It was like a
them.
10-foot kayak, 10 and a half maybe, pedal drive. And what I liked, and I never ever seen this on any other kayak brand, it actually offered the choice of whether you want the propel drive or the fin drive. Never seen that before. And I
Yeah.
thought, and it was only like $1,500. I go, that's not bad. Do you know anything about these things? I mean,
Yeah, so I not firsthand. I mean, I looked online and I it first piqued my curiosity because a lot of big guys were asking me if I have any experience with them because they were looking for big kayaks. I
yeah.
think the whale has a weight capacity of 600 or 650
Oh,
pounds.
wow. That's a heavy duty one.
Yeah, so that caught my attention right away. I looked at it. It's for the price. I think it's a lot of it's feature packed for the price because
Yeah,
if you're
that's
looking at
caught my eye.
$1,500 kayaks, generally they're not going to come with all those features, and especially a weight capacity like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
what caught my eye because they had the bull shark and they had the whale, and then they had one that was, they must have made them this year called the baby whale, and it's coming out. They said they're in pre-order stage now, but I never saw it until I thought, man, and that looks all right because I think when this one, after another year or two, I'll probably look into something else. And I was looking at the feel free 11.5 because I like the feel free with the wheel and the kill. Always like that system.
mm,
And then I saw this and I thought, wait a minute, that's about the same price. But the only downside to feel free is the track system. You have
yeah,
to have a special adapter. And I thought, why do that?
yeah,
Why put somebody have to, that's the big downside that I didn't like about it. I'd always have to buy a special adapter to fit that because their rails are a little bit different than the
mm,
normal that you could just
yeah.
throw a yak
I had
attack
a
on.
For a while I had the Johnny Bass or the Johnny Boats Bass 100, which is also made by Feel Free.
Mm,
They have the same rails, and I had the same question. I mean, I don't know if it's because it's some proprietary. I know the Unitrack from Feel Free is proprietary, but to me, it only makes sense to have a proprietary track if you're going to have a ton of proprietary accessories, and I don't think they have
right.
a ton of accessories.
No, I don't think Feel Free does, like I said, for like track systems. But yeah, you'd think you'd want to do that because, like a Yak Attack, they think they can fit any kayak, without any kind of adapter. You just, put it on
Mhm.
there. I don't think there's any kind of problem. I could take my camera mount off of my native, fit right on your Old Town. You could take it off the Old Town, fit right on a Jackson,
Yeah,
because I'm assuming those track systems are all universal. That
yeah,
was the biggest downfall I saw to that feel free with that track system. To me, was kind of annoying with that extra little adapter. I mean, yeah, it's not a lot of money, but still kind of like, why,
yeah, but yeah, it's one of those things. Why?
yeah, why are you there? Why you causing this extra grief? So that was one thing. But yeah, no, I just seen a hammerhead. And I thought, man, that don't look half bad because I mean, I thought like you said, for
Mhm.
the features that was offering and the fact that it offered the choice of the fins and the the propeller, I thought that's pretty nice. I mean,
Yeah.
'cause that was interesting. I never, and I would personally, I like the propeller better than the other one. I think the other one, because I think you can go even a little bit shallower with the propeller number one. And I don't know, I don't like this
That
constant
motion. Yeah.
feet to move it. I just, like I'm pedaling a bike. To me, just again, personal, like you go back to buying a kayak first. And like you said, now you probably recommend, if you can, to like try some of these out at like a
Mhm.
dealer if you got one nearby. Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you have one nearby
absolutely.
you guys?
So, there's a couple if there's a couple dealers out my way, but if you want a specific brand, not every dealer carries every brand. So,
Right.
where I bought my kayak was still an hour and a half away. They were an Old Town dealer. There's one that's 3 hours away called Delaware Paddle Sports. It's really well known. They do a lot of tournaments. They're mostly, like, in the Chesapeake area of Delaware, like, it's Southern Delaware.
Okay.
Uh, but they work a lot in the kayak fishing community, and they carry all the big names, Natives, Old Town, Hobie, and they have a huge used selection as well. So not only I recommend not only demoing a kayak if you can,
Right.
buy used if you can, because there's a ton of used options on the market. Right now, the market is super saturated. So if you're buying a new kayak and you sell it, whatever, 6 months later, you're at a huge disadvantage. You're going to lose a ton of money. But if you're looking to upgrade a kayak or
Uh,
buy a new kayak, it's
right. No.
yeah. Right now is the time to do that. There's so many used options out there. People are. I mean, I'm seeing autopilots on a regular basis, brand new, maybe been in the water 2 or 3 times, selling for $2,500. And
Oh
these things are
man.
4,500 to
Yeah.
$5,000 brand new.
Yeah, because I bought that native. They were, I mean, a kayak was hard to find because they shut down like for 6 months to a year. A lot of the factories they weren't, because of the COVID, they weren't making them, so their stock was low. Then they opened it because I mean this came from, that's when I was talking to, I might have been talking to Native or them. They said, yeah, they shut the plant down for a while. They were only filling the orders for that year, and they were shutting down for a while and they were hard to find then. It's funny how a couple years difference now
Changes.
they're everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
when I bought, it wasn't really in the drought. Like, it was you had to buy them as they were coming. Like, they would only last for a couple weeks before you had to wait for the next delivery. But shortly after I bought it, it was like that. Like, you couldn't get a hold of it. So I could have sold my kayak I could have sold it for $500 more, if I really wanted it
Right.
over retail. Now I couldn't get rid of it at
Did you
that
drive
price.
down there and get it? Down your
Yeah.
kayak?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Went down there. I
Yeah.
got I got it brand new. There was not a whole lot of used, and there wasn't a whole lot of interest in kayak fishing just yet. I mean, people were picking it
Okay.
up, but I mean,
Right.
even the YouTube channels are pretty limited on kayak fishing.
Okay.
But
It's
there
really
there is
boomed
another
then.
brand though, I wanted to mention that I wanna try because you mentioned the Hammerhead. There's
Mhm.
one called Lightning Kayaks, and they reached
Okay.
out to me last year. They were in pre-order stage. So I guess one of their marketing guys, they wanted to see if they can post it on that Facebook group that I have, Kayak Fishing Dads, and I was like, sure. They had a Kickstarter, but it's kind of the same deal. Like, they have that Hobie-esque type of feel with
Okay.
the fin drive, with the horizontal rod storage and all that. But I think they're a little bit more expensive. They might be like in that $2,000 range, but have a lot of features, have a lot of weight capacity, and they seem like a good kayak. So I mean, again, now not personal experience, but kind of in that same realm, that people are more curious about it, and it's harder to try one of those out when you go to buy it. Like, if you wanted a Hammerhead or
Yeah.
Cactus Zulu or Lightning kayaks, I mean, there's not a widespread amount of distributors to go try one out at.
Yeah, I never heard of it. I just happened to look at that online and went to their website, and I thought, man, that's pretty cheap. But yeah, because I had to actually order mine. It was Appomattox River Company. I think they're out of West Virginia or somewhere down there because we didn't have anything near here that was close, and freighted it for $99. I mean, that was, to me,
Right.
that was cheap. I couldn't have drove down there and back that cheap, with the
Mhm.
gas, and then when I had to rent a truck or whatever. So I thought, yeah, I'll just have them ship it, and they were great down there. They treated me well. And he said, I want to tell you one thing too. He says, do not let that driver of that truck go until you look at that kayak over. He goes, he cannot leave until you sign that invoice. He says, don't do it. He says, you look it over. If there's anything wrong, you just say, nope, can't, I'm not going to accept it. They'll put it back on the thing and we'll take it and we'll send you another. He says, because the problem happens is, I'm not saying it's our fault, their fault, but he says, if there's something wrong and you don't, and you sign off on it, it might be hard to get replaced because how are we going to prove they did it, or how they're going to prove that it came from that way. So,
Mm-hmm.
and the guy was super nice. He goes, no problem. No problem. I don't blame you. I mean, so he stood there a while. I looked it over. Everything was good. And so I signed it, and he went on. But yeah, because back there was nothing here close, a native dealer around here that had them number one in stock. So I just thought, well, I'll get it out of there. So now, like you said, now a lot of places are just popping up, or you got so many, you can get them anywhere you want. So,
Mm-hmm.
real quick, I want to talk about baits. That's one of my favorite things. Obviously, you can probably tell I can't get away from the Cinco. I love that thing. Like I said, though we talked about earlier, the water was freezing cold here. Like I said, 53, 54 degrees, muddy because all the rain. Um, I was throwing chatterbait, nothing. I was throwing the Cincos, nothing. I was throwing a fire or crawdad type of a crankbait,
Mm-hmm.
nothing. I mean, the only thing that hit me was that fire crawl that one time on a limb that come out. I caught it. So if you had a go to bait, what do you think that would be?
So my biggest confidence bait is going to be a Kayak impact swimmer, probably like 3.5 inch, 4 inch on a 1/8 ounce jig head. I mean, that's kind of what I learned bass fishing on,
Mm, okay.
and it worked. It worked, and it still works. So whenever I don't, that's not my first thing I throw out anymore because
Okay.
I go out situationally. So, but I will lean on that if I'm not catching. I'm like, man, I need to catch something. I throw that out. I could almost guarantee a bite on that. And no specific color, all their colors. If,
Right.
if you ever fish Kayak, I mean, they are so awesome, but they're fragile. So like
Okay.
they're expensive too. It's like $7 now for a pack of 8 of them, and expect them
Okay.
to one catch might just break that little minnow in half, and you're gonna have to get another one on. But they work great. So I would definitely say the Kayak Impact Swimmer, and as of last year, a Senko probably. I didn't
Yeah.
fish Senkos until last year. At a
Yeah.
buddy's request, he's like, "Please just throw it out, wacky worm.
Yeah.
I'll
Yep.
You'll
Yeah.
get
I
some."
agree.
And
It,
it saved me in a tournament. Like I wasn't catching anything until I started getting everything on the Senko.
Yeah, at the lake I was at last year, like I said, yeah, that Berkeley General accent is it's like magic. I mean, green pumpkin. I'll just say that color.
Mhm.
It just it was tearing them up. And believe it or not, for some strange reason, at least it must have been that lake. But you remember the Rebel Popeyes, the little
Mhm.
topwater? Oh my god, those bass just ate that up. I mean, almost all year. It's like, why are they hitting this? I mean,
Yeah.
I was complaining because that's even better than to catch them on a Cinco. But yeah, those are
Yeah.
probably last year. Those are probably my two best baits. Was that I just couldn't. I
Oh,
always had a Cinco rigged up, ready to
can't go
go.
wrong with it,
Nico,
man. I have
no,
Because of that, now I have a rod that is strictly wacky worm. Like it's just dedicated to that. Uh,
right?
but that knucklehead championship last year on Gunnersville in Alabama,
Hmm.
team Wendell Fishing won, and each and every one of them caught their fish on a green pumpkin Senko under
Wow.
docks, just flipping docks, man, all day.
Yeah, we love fishing boat docks, right?
Yeah, dude. I love
Yeah.
docks is my favorite.
Yeah, that's Cinco. It's just it's. I mean, when I first looked at that, I thought that is the dumbest looking thing. I mean, why would a fish hit this?
Yeah.
Just I think it's because it stays like horizontal as it goes down. It's just something that they're not used to seeing. But yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's just now. I'm also a very light line person. I use very light line. I don't go over 14 pound. I think it may got 14 or maybe it's 15 pound on one of my bait casters. Everything else is 6, 8. I just like lighter line. I think I have better, I just have better luck. People are like, why are you going to throw in 50? And you're going to really laugh at this. I still use monofilament. I use strand line. That has never failed me. I have got that. I have got hung up and stuff with that. And I've had to cut my line. It would not break. I've had to literally cut it. So like, let out some slack and grab my pliers and cut the line because it would not break.
Hmm.
I don't have any reason to choose. And I mean, I throw, when I'm up around pads or sticks, I'll throw that 15 pound line, but I don't, I mean, up here, I'm not looking at, we don't have, 10 pound bass very often around here.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but I just think I think I get more bites that way. And I like it. I like to be able to feel, I guess I'm more of a finesse fisher. I guess I want to say that. I mean, I get more feel of the lure and with a Cinco, you don't want heavy line anyway. So now are you more of a finesse type of fisherman or do you like the punching and the heavier
I'm more
type of
finesse
baits?
like that, especially after I got into drop shot. I
Right.
mean, drop shot can be like a power fishing but you can also finesse it, and that's how I caught
Right.
my PB 2 years ago. So far, it's only 5 pound, 5 pound 3 ounce, but that's my PB so far, largemouth.
It's a
And
big bass.
I just put so the worm I put on there, I was just kind of being ridiculous because never caught a big fish on a drop shot up until that moment. It was all
Right. Okay.
small, and and my buddy's like, dude, just put something big on there. So just being kind of like an idiot, I was like, well, I grabbed this 10-inch worm. It was a 10-inch ribbon worm, purple and blue.
Oh
Like
wow.
something you expect to do better maybe down south.
Right.
And I put it on there, 2 casts in. I thought I hooked into a log, man. That thing was not budging. And I ended up yanking it with my hand, and then it pulled back down. I was like, "Oh, that's not a log."
No, that's not a law.
Yeah, and that's how I got it in with the drop shot and with this stupid purple pink worm that I probably will never catch anything on it again. But sure enough,
Right.
I'll
Just
actually it's
right
just
bait, right time.
yeah. So I actually have it right here. It's just this weird. I
Oh yeah,
bought
that's
it.
a long one.
Yeah, I mean, I bought it on a sale at one of those places that sells plastics by the pound.
Okay.
I'm glad I had it.
Right. That is why you go like you go to some of these like boat shows around here. They'll sell the plastics like that in bulk like that. Because I love the green pumpkin colors. They're the old red shads or the motor oils. Those kind of colors. I've always had good luck with them. Now, if I'm going crappie fishing, I've got to have some kind of chartreuse on the bait. For some reason, up here, crappie loves chartreuse. It's just like that's what those little Strike King minnow looking or tadpole looking things. I don't even know what they
Yeah,
call them. Yeah, the crappie up here just tear those up. It's a lot of fun. But I want to get a little bit of baits too because I love that too because we all got our go tos. And my personal best bass, like I said, it was down in Florida, Rodman Reservoir. We shiner fishing because that's what they use down there. I was on a guided trip. She weighed 8 pounds 10 ounces.
wow.
And now that back then, I don't know if it still is, but it was a catch and release only there, which was fine with me because I would have to get a thing and freeze it and ship
Mhm.
it and all that stuff. So I was fine. We just took a bunch of pictures, measured the girth, the length, and everything else, and then I had a replica made of her. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was. When I first got there too, it was funny. The guide says, if you don't leave here and your stomach is not sore, red, you haven't done a good day. And I what are you talking about? And then at the end of the day, because you got to really set the hook hard because those shiners will swim back on those pads, and they call them idiot vines. They swim way back in the muck and weeds and stuff because that's where
Yeah,
the big bass are. So you got to really set the hook hard to get through all that
yeah.
stuff to get those fish out. But I caught a ton of fours, some fives, and then I caught the 8, and I loved every minute of it.
Oh,
So
that's awesome, man. What lake was this?
Monroe Reservoir down in Florida. Yep.
Okay.
Or not Monroe. Did I say Monroe?
Yeah,
Monroe's right here. Rodman.
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 Okay.
They're just down at Rodman for this last elite tournament last weekend. The St. Johns River. I think it feeds into Rodman
Oh,
down there.
gotcha.
Yeah, Rodman. If I said Monroe, I apologize because that's a reservoir up here. By God, I know it. I know that what it is. Rodman Reservoir. Like I said, it was a lot of fun. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah. I want to make
yeah,
my way down there to go Okeechobee, but
yeah,
that thing
yeah,
is huge.
yeah.
I've
Oh
waded
yeah.
down there, and they say there's no way you can clear across that thing in a kayak. Like
I
it's
wouldn't know. Yeah, it's very big. I don't. I mean, it's. I think one point that you almost can't even see the other side. It's just so big because it's almost like a Great Lake. I
yeah.
mean, at the width of it at least at one point. So, well, we've been going almost an hour. I don't want to keep you much longer. Is there anything you want to say in closing before we go? You want to give a shout out to anybody or your social media where people can find you?
Sure. Yeah, well, I mean, first things first, Chad, thanks for having me, man.
Great
It's
to
a
have you
pleasure
on.
chatting, man. And yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to follow me on my socials, it's all Bearded Dad Fishing. So you can find me on my YouTube, Instagram, Facebook at Bearded Dad Fishing.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'll be sure to post all those links and good luck in that tournament this year, man. I'm getting married in June, so I don't know how much I'm going to get
Oh,
out in June
congrats,
at
man.
all. Yeah, thanks, man. So my fishing's kind of limited in June, which is
Yeah.
understandable. So,
Don't go
but
fishing for your honeymoon. I don't think they like that.
no, I don't think that's going to go. I don't think that's going to go. Or it might be a short-lived wedding, or marriage, I should say. But no, it's going to be good. We're gonna have a good time. So, but I hopefully get some warm weather this May. Get some out there and hopefully get some lines wet and some fish caught so I can do a little bit better. Because I said for these state challenges, it's kind of embarrassing when you've got one little 12 and a half foot or 12.5 foot, 12.5 inch bass on the scale. That's all they got. That's kind of embarrassing, but hey, we all got to start somewhere.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
all right. Well, it's great again having you on. We'll have to do it again. And I'll be sure to post your links down below as well so they can get a hold of you. Because you've got a lot of good videos, very informative. You make it down, plain English, simple, as easy to understand, and great place to start. That's for
Yep.
sure. Great
No, I
if you got
appreciate that.
questions. Yeah, definitely. If you got questions, that's there's your answers. Because I was kind of really looking through. I go, he really has a lot of stuff on how to do this stuff, or got some good advice. So, and I agree with every part of it. Like I said, the only thing I want to add is make sure you have a toolkit for your kayak, because you're going to need every kind of tool that'll fit every bolt on that thing. Because I
Yep.
always tell people, tighten everything up to the beginning of every year, whether you think it needs or not. Just go around your kayak, tighten up your handles if they have wraps or screws. Tighten everything up. Check your your rudder and all that stuff. Check everything, your steering and everything. Make sure that's all good and ready to go. Because you want to make sure if it's good there, you want to make sure it's good there instead of test it out on the water, because it may not be good. So
Yeah. Yeah. Before you drive 2 hours to go fishing and have a day
yeah.
ruined.
Yeah, well, I would have got early about how to go fix this. Yeah, nobody wants that, because I mean, I got plenty of time here in the winter to go out there and make sure it's all clean and everything's good to go. I got my my launch permit on there, and I got my life preserver and everything in there, my rain gear and all that stuff. So make sure it's all ready to go.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, appreciate it. Thanks again, and we'll have you on again, and I'll definitely check out some more of your videos. And again, good luck this year, and hopefully you have you hope your team does very well and wins the thing. So
Appreciate it, man. Absolutely.
you got it easy. You can sit back and watch your team hopefully win out there.
Yeah, that's right, man.
Now, real quick,
yeah.
Do you get a go regardless of whether your team wins? Do you get a go?
Yeah, so we get to go no matter what. So
Okay.
yeah, so there'll be 12 teams down there, and even if if someone fished to be, say, on my team or whoever's team,
Mm-hmm.
right, fish to be on my team, and they don't make it, they can also go down there to fish what they call the fan fish off. It's kind of like a side tournament if you didn't
Okay.
make the main tournament, and you can still fish for $1,000, and you
Okay.
still get to meet Chad Hoover and Fluke Master and all the guys that come down there for the tournament. So it's just a cool like camaraderie thing.
Yeah, that's fun right there too. Get to actually meet and talk to these people, and share ideas and stories and have a good time. Eat
Yeah.
some good food.
Yeah,
All that
absolutely.
good stuff. All right, thanks again, Jay. I appreciate it. So enjoy the rest of your week, and hopefully you get out there and have some good luck on fishing.
Yeah, sure thing. Appreciate it, brother.
All right, talk to you later.
All right, man.
Bye. All righty. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. I appreciate that. That was Jay from Bearded Dad Fishing. We could have went on for a lot more. Just want to kind of cover a little bit. Hopefully you learned a little bit about starting out, what kayaks to look at. Again, check his channel out. A lot of good information. And I think you're going to learn a ton of information on there, because, especially if you're starting out, it's a great place to start. And just to get an idea what you're looking at, because there's a lot more to it than just buying a boat and going in the water. But main thing is, if you really want to get into it, just do it. I don't think you're going to regret it all. If you love fishing, you're going to love this anymore. It gets you off the bank and all that good stuff. So thanks again for tuning in. Be sure to check out my other podcast down there. All that's on my channel there. Just take a look, and hope you have a great fishing week as well. And until then, please like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you all later. Thank you.